Katie Binke, Shawano County Agriculture Agent with the University of Wisconsin Extension. There are many factors that influence the quality and quantity of silage that can be stored in a horizontal silo. In order to build an ideal silo, producers need to carefully monitor the moisture level during harvest, make sure that the bunker is packed to the proper density, and quickly cover the bunker to minimize exposure to oxygen. This section covers the proper filling procedures and safety measures needed for optimal quality at the bunker. To properly pack a horizontal silo, harvesting at proper moisture level is key. For haylage, we're looking at 60 to 65% moisture, and for corn silage, we're looking at 65 to 70% moisture. By harvesting at the proper moisture level, we're able to maximize yield, minimize spoilage, and allow for good fermentation.
Hello, I'm Brian Holmes, agricultural engineer with the Biological Systems Engineering Department at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. Today we're discussing filling bunker silos. If you're filling a bunker silo and a silage pile, you want to have thin layers of material. And you want to make as many passes with the heavy tractor over that material to get good packing. Too many times we see silage piles made with a fairly steep side, and that doesn't allow packing of that material, and it's important to get it packed to get good density. You have two tractors oftentimes involved in filling a bunker or a pile. One would be your pushing tractor, and its primary responsibility is to push the silage into the storage. And if you need a packing tractor, the second tractor would be used largely for the packing process. Those tractors should be as heavy as possible. 40,000-pound tractors are not out of the ordinary in terms of getting good packing. The weight of the tractors and the number of tractors is controlled largely by the harvest rate. So if you have a fairly fast harvest rate, you need more and more tractors to get a good job of packing done.
20 pounds, perfect. I'm Cheryl Scolis, UW Extension Agricultural Safety Specialist with the UW Center for Agricultural Safety and Health. Around bunker silos, there are a number of different safety factors to be concerned about. The first place that we start is with the tractors. While you select your tractors for the packing and pushing purposes, the safety factors are also important. When we look at the tractor behind us, our first point we're talking about is the tires here. You want to be sure that you're using dual tires, that they're properly inflated, that you have checked the tires and the pressure of the tires each day. You may need to add some additional weight, either to the front of the tractor or tire weights or on the 3-point hitch. So while you work on that weight of your tractor, also be sure to check out your tractor on a daily basis. As important as selecting the proper tractor, the tractor operator is extremely vital in the proper packing of silos. That person operating that tractor needs to be well trained. He or she needs to know their piece of equipment and be trained in the proper use of that tractor. It's important as you're picking out the tractor that that tractor also has what we call a rollover protective structure, or ROPS. This tractor, the frame of this cab, is making that ROPS. The ROPS helps protect that tractor operator in case of a rollover. But as important as the ROPS is to help protect the individual operating the tractor, it is not complete unless that person wears their seat belt. All employees operating these pieces of equipment and tractors need to remember to click it. That seat belt needs to be in place and worn throughout their use of that tractor. Are we ready to go? Okay, I'm set. Safety in and around the horizontal bunker silo. Communications are very important. You look at the process and you're going to see a number of tractors out there packing, trucks rolling in, and sometimes other people coming into this work site. It's important that you address safety as a crew. Start by having a communication plan, looking out for each other as the packing and the pushing tractors and the trucks are all unloading. Talking about your plans at the start of the day and throughout so everybody knows where they're supposed to be. If someone needs to come onto the work site that is a visitor or someone that needs to check on another part of the procedure, it's recommended to use the safety vest. These high-vis vests help to make that individual identifiable to those operators of that equipment. Another thing to consider is, are your workers dressed for the day? We're going to be out in sunny environments, we're going to be out in cold weather or windy environments and forage blowing around. Wearing eye protection, such as the safety glasses I'm wearing, will help protect their eyes if they're out in the environment and the particles of forages are flying that day. Also, having appropriate work dress according to your company policies are important. So remember, start each and every day with safety and end each and every day with safety.
There are several different methods for filling a bunker silo. One is called the progressive wedge method and the other is called the layer fill method. With the progressive wedge method, you fill the back of the storage first, and then your filling face moves gradually towards the front of the storage. This system is good for situations where the storage might be filled over a several-day period and you need to leave the storage for an extended period, say at nighttime when you're not filling. You can get the material that needs to be left exposed overnight or for several days covered with your plastic and sealed so that it is not exposed to oxygen or possibly precipitation during the non-filling period. The filling slope on the progressive wedge method is smaller than with the layer fill method. And this smaller area allows that material to not be exposed to so much oxygen, or the area isn't as large during that off period when you're not filling. With the layer fill method, you start filling from the front of the storage and fill all the way to the back. The layers end up being pretty much horizontal, and the storage is basically full when you've added enough material to get to the top of the walls and maybe a little bit above. And you don't ever want to overfill your bunker so that you're filling it in a safe way. In narrow bunkers or piles, the logical packing procedure is from one end to the other and back and forth. Where you have wider piles or bunkers, you may actually want to pack in two directions, along the length and then perpendicular to the length. This will help to get a little bit better packing done. When we're pushing forage into the silo, we'd like to do it in thin layers because thin layers give us an opportunity to spend more time on the silage getting it packed. So we recommend no more than 6 inches of material be spread on the surface before we pack it. To achieve the 6-inch layers, the tractor operator needs to raise the blade above the surface of the forage, maybe about 6 or 8 inches, in order to spread this material out over the filling surface, and that helps to get the thin layer. If you have a fairly small filling surface, sometimes you have to spread less than a full load in order to get the thin layers. So if you have a large surface, you can spread the whole load over that surface and get it packed. That would be typical of your layer fill process. But if you're using the progressive wedge method where your surface area is relatively small, then you might want to spread only half a load, pack it, and then spread the other half of the load. A third way to get thin layers is, if you have a fairly large operation and your harvest rate is fairly fast, would be to fill 2 bunkers at the same time. So you would have 2 bunkers side by side maybe, and each one would be receiving material, and you'd be pushing that forage in there again in thin layers and then packing it. When you're packing, you want to make sure that you pack at least twice over the surface in order to get good packing. If you have more time available, more passes is also beneficial to improve the density. If you're at 60% moisture or less, you may actually want to have 3 passes in order to make sure that you do have good packing. So drier material is a little harder to get packed. You just need to spend the time to get that packed. One of the areas where we see a lot of lower density in silage, or lower density, is next to the walls. And this is because as the packing tractor wheel moves away from the wall, it only has one wheel touching the silage until you get to the width of the tractor. And so it's advantageous to make maybe 4 passes with your packing tractor when you're operating next to the wall in order to make sure that those walls are properly packed and have a high density. So when you're packing the silage, you'd like to slope the surface towards the center of the bunker. Slope it down to the center of the bunker. And that way when you drive your tractor next to the wall, you can have the tires close to the wall and still not have the top of the tire affecting the plastic that's on the wall. You'd like to keep this slope fairly shallow, but have it steep enough that the top of your tractor tire is away from the wall. You'd like to have the tires overlapping each other a little bit as you move over to the next location for packing. So an overlap of an inch or 2 gives you good packing on that silage. The driving speed on the packing tractor should be less than about 5 miles an hour to allow the weight of the tractor to have an impact on the forage. If your bunker has a wall in the back, you want to make sure that your wheels are able to get as close to that wall as possible. And with some tractors that have weight on the front and the wheels behind the front of the tractor, you may actually have to back your tractor up to that wall in order to get the silage packed. Finish the top by packing it maybe 4 to 6 passes to get the top surfaces packed as tightly as possible, or as high a density as you can. And you'd like to make sure that those slopes are sufficient that the water is going to drain off of the storage and not puddle and accumulate on top of the plastic. When your storage is full, you'd like to slope the top surface either flat or with a slight slope peaking in the middle and sloping down to the walls. You'd like that slope to be no more than 3 to 1, 3 horizontal to 1 vertical. This is a safe surface to pack on so that you're not so likely to tip the tractor over. And it allows you to get down to the wall edge and pack that edge well.